Welcome to Business with the Donos, where we talk about business, family, and everything in between. I'm your host, Jade Dono, and I'm here with my dad, Paul Dono.
That's me.
That's you.
Yeah.
Oh, who'd have thunk it? And this week's topic is, should you hire an apprentice?
Absolutely.
Well, that was a short podcast.
There you go.
Going in at 22 seconds.
Simples.
Simples. No, really. So this discussion's come up because we went to a debate yesterday hosted in the Cambridge University, which is really cool. Like, it's just filled with tradition, including the debating hall. It's the chairs are super uncomfy because they're so old, but it's a really cool place to visit, and I would urge you to go to a debate there if you can, because it's a good experience to have. I've never been to anything like that before.
I told you you'd like it.
You did? Well, I never doubted that I would like it, to be fair.
Well, Josh didn't want to go, did he? He said he wouldn't like it.
No, Josh didn't want to go.
Yeah, I don't want to go. Why have I got to go?
He didn't want to go. But
did he like it?
he did. He really enjoyed it as well. It was something different.
And obviously you went through the wrong door.
Well, no. Okay, so the motion was that graduates can't compete. Now, we had 3 speakers of both agreeing with the motion and then 3 opposing the motion. Some really great speakers. On the agreeing with the motion, you had Grace Hardy, who's doing really, really well in the accounting industry. She's making big waves and she's so impressive. Like, she's 24 or something?
Yeah, she's very young.
She's very young, and she's doing so much already. So she is one to watch.
I did start my practice at 24.
Oh, well done you.
Just put it out there.
Okay, well
I
done
know
you.
it was 30 odd years ago, but I still did.
Well done.
We didn't have the internet then.
Oh, must have been really hard.
Yeah, it was.
There was another lady called Christina, and she worked in science, and she was doing an apprenticeship and getting her degree through her apprenticeship. So she was talking a lot about that, which was really interesting.
It was.
And there was then another person, and I can't remember his name. I think it might have been Chris.
It was, because the other one was Ross.
Yeah, Chris. And he'd done a lot of clever things. He'd been at universities. I think he was a fellow at...
I don't actually understand what he did.
One of the things. He'd written a book that I can't repeat the name of because it's... Not because it's rude, I just didn't understand the title.
It was Quantum something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Wow, impressive guy.
Some sort of light reading.
Yeah. He'll take it on our cruise.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, he discussed more about sort of the failings of universities, which were really good points. And then we had 3 on the other side. We had Ross, who was a professor. He's made a brand new university in Peterborough with new sort of innovative ideas, sort of picking up on those failings that Chris was saying. We had Anna, who was a rower, who had an Olympic gold medal, that she passed around everybody. She let everybody have a look at it. And bearing in mind, there must have been 200 odd people there.
200 odd people,
She passed it round. I'll let everyone else pass it round to have a look at it.
Well, it's a bronze and a gold.
A bronze
in Beijing and a gold in England.
And the Beijing medals all had Jade in.
Yes.
She said the gold medals had a very pale jade and was very precious. And I thought I should have held that one, really.
Why?
I'm a very pale jade.
Just not precious.
Probably quite precious as well.
Yeah.
Instead, we got the bronze one, which was cheap as chips jade, apparently, which is not me. So I got my picture with the medal, which was cool. And then the other one was Lord. How do you pronounce his name?
Kieran Billamore.
Lord Billamore. And he was excellent. A very, very clever guy. He founded Cobra Beer, and I think he had more degrees than I can count, I think. And he was an excellent speaker.
I think what was quite impressive is that he actually stood up and said he's been given a lot of honorary doctorates, but he wanted a real one, so he's now studying at this moment. And he's not a young chap, and at this moment he's studying for a doctorate so he can have a real one rather than an honorary one.
Yeah.
I think that's just phenomenal.
I think
really.
so as well, because he doesn't need it,
No.
but he felt like he should earn it,
Yeah.
which,
Well,
you know.
and that just shows you the drive and determination of the guy.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, because we went to that debate and we heard those two sides, we thought we'd talk about apprenticeships. Now, me and Dad had different thoughts on the can graduates compete or not, and I think the argument ended up being sort of university versus apprenticeships, which I think wasn't necessarily what the argument should have been. Because I think that university has its place and I think apprenticeships have their place and I think people can thrive in both. But I think graduates can absolutely compete with people on apprenticeships as well. So, yeah, whereas Dad's got the opposite opinion. He went through the other door. Although my side won, so...
Well, if you look at it as our group, yeah?
Okay.
So within our group that we took, there was 6 of us that went to the debate.
Yeah.
3 were graduates, and 3, including myself, have come through apprenticeship. Yeah? 2 graduates went through the nay. 4 people went through the yay and supported the motion. So if we take it as a micro vote...
No.
Because
I think we'll take it as the whole room.
No, we do it as a micro group.
No.
As a family group.
No.
Yeah, one accounts. It was 4-2.
I don't think it works like that.
Well, it did in my head.
Well, your head is wrong. Anyway, it made us really think about the apprenticeship side of things, because we're all for apprenticeships. I think they're excellent, and we've got Harry, who we've taken on all the way through his apprenticeship, and James, we took on Zach right at the end of his apprenticeship, and now he's on another apprenticeship.
Met Grace, she started on apprenticeship.
Yeah.
She's doing really well in industry at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm doing an apprenticeship now for my MBA, so I've done both sides of the thing, so I know. Although I'd still count myself as a graduate in terms of the debate once I've done the MBA, because I get a master's. So.
Yes.
And that's where some of the confusion was.
Yeah, and that's where the argument, I think, was lost a little bit, because the lady that
Christina, she was doing a degree
to get to be,
through an
therefore
apprenticeship.
became a graduate, which was kind of laboured on correctly. She was impressive, but unfortunately,
she was really
her argument
impressive.
Her argument was shot when she was going to be a graduate at the end of her apprenticeship. So that's where the apprenticeship graduate mix.
Oh, it didn't
argument
quite
changed.
work, because you can do both, which I actually think is a great option.
But our apprentices have done really well. I mean, you look at James. I mean, he started from Castle Manor, which was obviously a top school in Haverhill. The best school in Haverhill, of course.
Of course, I've got no comments on that. Don't send us hate mail, any Sammy Ward people.
It produced some very, very good, impressive people who run businesses, particularly in accountancy practice in the town. So, it was great to bring James through. He's really shining and getting our clients in a good position and reviewing them and giving good business advice. And Harry, who come from the other school in town, which can't be named because it wasn't as good as Castle Manor, obviously. Poor Harry. But I have told him.
I know, many times.
But he's doing some great work. He wants to do accounts. He loves doing the accounts.
Yeah.
And he's doing really, really good job in accounts and supporting James in that side. So from an apprenticeship point of view as a business, they are really, really good. Really good workers. And we've taken them from school and they're flying. Absolutely flying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's great. I mean, Zach came to us from another firm of accountants and is studying his next level qualifications, his ACCA. He will do very well moving forwards. But we didn't take him straight from school.
No.
So he'd already got his AAT. I think he got it on the day he started with us.
Yeah.
But again, we're supporting him through an apprenticeship program, which I think is really, really good. Obviously, you're doing the apprenticeship program as well, and yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of a misconception on the apprenticeships that you have to be a school leaver to do them. You can be an apprentice at any time. If you want that additional learning, you can apply even after you've been at university. I mean, Josh and myself, but Josh decided to have a career change. He used to do data analysis for cricket. That's what he's trained in. He decided to have a bit of a career change, so he did the apprenticeship for his ATT.
Yeah.
Which he now uses and has done well. So he's had both the university and the apprenticeship experience, and I think that's served him well. And he did that later than 16. Would have been, 22? 21, 22?
Yeah. I think the problem with that and Josh and yourself is that you would probably not bother with the apprenticeship side if there wasn't financial incentives for your employers.
No, probably not.
Because the apprenticeship side, the learning. I remember when James, James had to learn GCSE maths or whatever the equivalent is now, and he had A-level maths and shone on it. So the questions they were asking him in the apprenticeship program were not adapted to him, and he was doing an accounting exam. Why on earth would you want to learn? So, some of the apprenticeship side of it isn't really fit for purpose and probably needs a good review, but the financial incentives for small firms like ourselves enable us to put people through an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And I think that as a small employer, that's crucial. I don't think this government understands small employers. They talk about the apprenticeship levy, they talk about supporting employers, but us small employers, we need support. We can't afford to put people through, unfortunately, this level of fees for their tuition, let alone the time it takes. Our team to teach them, particularly Adrian, who is a brilliant sort of mentor, they need a lot of time off to get through the exams, etc.
Yeah.
That support, I don't think is right, and I think that the government, I know some of the professional bodies, particularly our professional body, are really lobbying hard for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the government's got to wake up. To be quite honest,
Yeah.
I don't want to be political on here, but it's they've got to understand what a small and micro business is.
Yeah, and they're also removing the level 7 apprenticeships, which
It's mad.
I don't think is the right thing to do, because it means now I wouldn't have been able to have done my masters because it would have cost too much.
Yeah.
And I actually think doing it through the apprenticeship has been really rewarding. So all of my assignments have to relate to one account.
Yeah.
Which means even though I'm writing it academically, it's all applying to the theory I'm learning practically.
Yeah.
So, and that's invaluable for anybody doing it in alongside their business, and removing that opportunity for people to upskill and work their way up in professions. I think that's a bit of a mistake.
And I've said, in the forums I belong to, within the accountants, is that we probably wouldn't take another Zach on.
No.
Which is a shame, because he wants to do his ACCA. We're sponsoring him for that.
Yeah.
But we couldn't afford the time that is required off. We couldn't afford the tuition fees. We just wouldn't do it. And that's an opportunity for that young person that is going to be missed moving forwards. We don't. It's our first level 7 person that we've taken through. And we will not be doing that in the future under this current regime.
Well, not without the apprenticeship scheme.
Well, absolutely.
As well.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Indeed. But level up to level 4, we will certainly reconsider.
Yeah. So.
I know that sounds negative, doesn't it? But I just think the support's got to be there for small business. I know we've got a rant session later, but that's probably one of my big rants, is that we need to support small business. And small businesses, whatever they do, need to feel they've got that support.
Yeah, but we also need to support young people.
Well, we do.
If they can't go to university, if they don't want the debt, then the apprenticeships are the other option. And if businesses aren't willing to take the apprentices on, that is a problem. And so...
Yeah, it is. And so I can only speak from experience, but taking apprentices on has certainly helped our business.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because I went through the neighbour door does not mean I was against apprenticeships. Just putting it out there.
Well,
I think they're great.
We can all have opinion even if it's wrong.
No, I just think graduates can compete. That's
Okay.
all.
Fine. I think with the right support system, they can't compete.
But that could be said the other way around as well.
Well, it could. And I think that the guy who said that universities aren't making people fit for purpose because their traditional way of learning isn't going to change. I mean, I think Karen Billamori, I think he turned around and said that when he started his doctorate, he wasn't allowed to use AI because it's cheating. 2 years later into his doctorate, he said, they're encouraging me to use AI because that's what the workplace is expecting. So therefore, now it's not cheating. So that is an adaptation. But, I mean, 2 years ago, AI existed. So if universities aren't catching up, then yes, the graduates that come out are not fit for purpose.
But I think that could be said the same in some workplaces that are taking on apprentices. They won't be using AI. Like, if you look at it from an accountancy practice, only, 17%, I think, something along those lines, are even using online technology. So think of all those apprentices that are in traditional firms. They won't be using AI.
Well,
They might not be getting any... They might not be in a place that wants to push their apprentices forward either, or be able to give them the time, and therefore, like apprentices and graduates on exactly the same level.
Whatever. Let's agree to disagree.
He knows I'm right.
I still went through the yays. I agreed the motion.
Okay. Anyway, so apprentices do work well for small business. They've definitely worked well for us, and I think some of the reason is that you do get people in that are really keen and they're full of energy and they'll really work hard, and you can also mould them to be your business person, so like a one accounts person in our way. So it's easier to train them our habits than it is to break bad habits, which is a really good thing. They also grow with your culture, so they fit your culture, they understand it, they sort of live and breathe it. They've not known anything before, unless they have come from another workplace and they're doing the apprenticeship after being somewhere else, but still they grow with you, and they can learn new things that they could bring in on the team.
Absolutely.
From their studying. Yeah. The challenges are, and we've touched on all of these, but I thought I'll just list them out for you, is they do need time. They need to be trained properly. If you're going to take an apprentice on, they need to be cared for, nurtured and pushed in the right direction. You should be the champion of them, and then you'll get the best out of them.
Absolutely.
You probably need a plan to be able to do that as well. So...
That's your job.
Yeah, you need a plan. You need to know what they're learning, when, and really push them forward. Let them thrive, and understand as well. They're not there just as cheap labour, if you like.
Oh crikey, no!
They are there because they're learning, and they're going to be probably one of your key people by the time they are done. And also, you've got to be really forgiving. Mistakes happen. You need to let it slide, be patient, and teach rather than, expect them to know everything, because they won't. So, I thought we'll share a bit of our stories, Dad, so that people know where we're coming from. So if you want to say sort of how you started through your apprenticeship, and then...
Yeah, so I mean, I started my working life at 17, as it were.
Young.
I mean, before that, I was working as well. I went potato picking.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, so that was good fun during my summer holidays. I've filled paint pots up. I've done other stuff and what have you. So, always enjoyed working. Started, I did work experience from school.
Yep.
Which was great. messed up the filing system. You'd be surprised by that, wouldn't you? Apparently they couldn't
Well
find
done.
stuff after I'd been there, but they still liked me for some reason. And then, offered me a training contract through the youth training scheme, £50 a week.
Oh,
so
get you.
There you go. And yeah, so I worked from there. That was an industry. Then I went into a local firm once I'd got my AAT. Started with ACCA. But then the recession hit, so I set up on my own. And as part of that, you can't continue your ACCA exams because you're in practice and you're studying. They're just something they won't allow.
That's madness, isn't it?
But I think it's a bit archaic. I see why they try and do it, because some people might say that they are ACCA backed, etc. I get that, but it's a bit unfortunate. SEMA actually allow you to do it, which is quite interesting. I know a few people have done it that way.
I think continuous learning should be encouraged, not
discouraged. But there you go. That's the way it is. So started in practice with a partner. Didn't like that, so went out on my own. Then carried on. Paul Dono & Co was my business. You did some tax returns for me at about age 10.
bit of bookkeeping,
bit of shredding, and you also did the some YouTube videos when that came on board, or some sort of video editing as well, which was great. I then merged that business. That went horribly wrong, and then started One Accounts. How long ago now? 11 years ago?
Yeah,
about
12 in December.
12 years in December, and gone from there. In that time, I've done sat on a lot of boards, sat on AAT, Chamber of Commerce, chaired local Chamber of Commerce, various charity things, etc., and local clubs and societies that we've been there and supported. So quite a bit when you look back. But so that's where we've come from.
Exactly, and that's all through an apprenticeship, no degrees, and you've achieved all of that, without having...
No one in my family went to university.
No. Well,
So.
me, Mum.
Well, yeah, at the time, you weren't here then, and Mum hadn't gone. She was a mature student.
Okay, so mine is a bit different to yours, which is surprising because you've never sort of pushed the academic route onto me and Katie at all. It's been more our choice. Katie didn't go to university, but I did. But yeah, like Dad, I worked early on. Well, I worked for Dad for a little bits, doing the shredding and a little bit of bookkeeping, a little bit of video editing. I worked in the pub at 14. I then at school there was going to be like a big expedition that you had to save up the money. You had to raise the money for yourself. So I did lots of things. Then I put on events. I worked at the pub. I worked at the local
you did a lot of busking as well, didn't you?
Area. I did a lot of busking. I did a lot to try and raise that money, and it wasn't. You couldn't earn a lot at 16, so
especially if I was paying you.
It was quite a slog. But I did. I think I was short by a little bit, but I did. I raised more than anybody else in my year, so I thought that was a win. So I did that. I went to university. Well, no, I went to college first, and at college then I was working at the children's play area. Did like kids' parties and stuff, and that was really fun. And I did my singing, so I was running my own little business as well, doing my singing, singing around the pubs and things. And then I went to university. I didn't do a part-time job at university while I was there, but in the summers then I would put on little workshops for kids and build up my money to be able to then be fine at uni. And then I came back and didn't really know what to do with myself, so I did lots of different jobs with my degree. And I think universities fail on setting expectations when you leave. I think you leave and you think you'll work straight away, and
Well, especially you thought you'd work straight away in the West End.
Yeah, but you won't. You have to do either an apprenticeship or work for free or get that experience. Yeah. And I would encourage anybody who is at university at the moment to get the experience while you're there, because that will save you a whole world of issues when you finish. Just go meet some impressive people, go make connections, go get a bit of work experience over the summer. Just do it while you're at university. Anyway, I then decided to change path and I joined Dad. Oh, at university as well, I put myself into a leadership role. I joined the Musical Theatre Society. I decided I didn't want to do the performing, so I became the first female director in the Musical Theatre Society. I jumped in with both feet and directed 70 freshers, and I put the emphasis on freshers because they're not easy to manage. 70 freshers in a showcase, and then I directed a musical after that, all whilst doing my dissertation. That is something I think university gave me the opportunity to be able to do. You wouldn't be able to get to do that in the real world at 21.
Well, not in accountancy
with
practice.
No experience, and not in an accountancy practice, no. But that gave me the skills. You just have to let it go. Oh, that was awful. Anyway, I then left with my degree, not knowing what to do. I ended up, after I think about 5 jobs, working for Dad. And I think, my degree, although it's in a totally different realm to accountancy, I think it does work alongside what we do quite nicely.
Despite defying gravity.
Oh my goodness, these are awful. And now I'm studying for my master's. Again, it's to, get that experience and that sort of learning under my belt so that I can help our clients with the, credibility of doing that course.
Well done.
Thank you.
It's all about you, isn't it?
Well, that was my story. We were doing my story. You did your story. I had to do my story.
Yeah. Excellent.
Anyway, do you have anything else to say on apprentices?
No, not at all. Just that they're much better to employ than graduates.
Not necessarily. Please write us your comments on what you think to the motion of graduates can't compete. I'll be really interested to know. Obviously, you know that me and Dad are different sides of the fence, but I would love to hear your comments to know what you think on the matter. So now we are into our unfiltered minute. So I'll start with mine because, we've been talking about me for ages, so may as well continue. So this week we had a practice assurance review. So we're regulated accountants, so we have to, every 3 to 5 years, have a practice assurance review where they literally tear your business apart, make sure you're doing every single little thing properly.
It's like an Ofsted inspection.
Yeah, it's sort of like Ofsted for accountants.
Yeah.
It is like that, and it's very nerve-wracking.
I think I actually did go in, didn't I, when we were having our final sum up, and I said to the guy, I feel like a naughty schoolboy.
Yeah, you did.
Coming to the head teacher.
But, I mean, it's hard going, but it is good, and it's really good to know that if you're with a regulated accountant, that they're getting everything checked. I think from our client's point of view, it is a great thing that we have it done. But making sure the man had everything he needed for this review in one place was quite a lot of work.
Well, it was for you.
And I'm quite happy it's over.
So am I. Because maybe my wine stocks won't be...
Maybe not.
...replenished as quickly. But you did most of the work.
Yeah.
In fact, I did find the ICO certificate, which ended up being wrong.
Yeah, the one thing. And I asked you about the DBS checks, and you were like, yeah, me and Mum have them.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And actually, you did have a DBS check.
I did, but not for one account.
Yeah, even so.
I've got one now.
Yeah, good. Did you pass?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. just asking.
That'd be awkward on the podcast, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
So yeah, that's my little story of the week, that we did get through it, and I think we pretty much passed with flying colours. It was only that ICO certificate that if you are a business, everyone has to have an ICO registration. It is worth
That
just
holds
doing.
data.
Yeah, it's worth doing their little online quiz to make sure you're in the right tier, because they have different tiers and they don't evaluate it as they go. They'll just take the direct debit. So just make sure that you've not gone into tier 2.
And we'd gone into tier 2, but we didn't know we'd gone into tier 2.
No, because we didn't know there were different tiers.
Yeah.
So just check that. Bit of advice. Just check your tiering is right on your ICO thing.
And the tiering should follow what a micro and small company is.
Yeah.
But like most government things, it doesn't follow the new legislation when it changes. So the legislation's now changed on turnover. So we'll be tier 1 probably now.
Well, that's annoying, isn't it?
But we're not. We're tier 2 because they haven't changed the criteria to match the current rules.
Well, very frustrating. But just a little bit of advice, check your tier.
Yeah. When I say current rules, I mean compared to Companies House.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what's your unfiltered minute?
Do you know what? So we've gone through this quality assurance visit. Protects our clients. They know that all our team does CPD. In fact, Kerry had a CPD review by the AAT as an individual one. But we make sure, and she passed obviously with flying colours, but we make sure everyone's up to date. We make sure all our insurances are up to date. We make sure that our ICO certificate's right. But our AML procedures, we make sure everything is right, don't we?
Yeah.
That costs us to do that.
Yeah.
So not just in software, but in time, we've got people that work with us that's all they do. So we pay a salary, for someone to do all this.
Yeah.
So, it's not cheap for us as a business to do that from a cost point of view, let alone what's right for the client.
Yeah.
So what happened when we sat down? We were like, phew, that's over. Really good meeting with the guy that reviewed us. Lo and behold, one of our small clients decides to go to Fred in the shed. If your name's Fred on here, sorry about that, But, so
Fred.
They're much cheaper.
Yeah.
So we looked at the website. We thought, okay, how can someone be that much cheaper? Looked at the website. There's no regulation.
No.
The website's about 2 pages long.
Yeah.
Of course they're cheaper. They're not doing what we do. They're not keeping up to date like we do. So the end bill is cheaper. But how many cheaper firms do we see that cost a lot of money, particularly in terms of clients for tax, particularly in supporting the business? Remember about that client? We saw a client, recently didn't want to go over the VAT threshold.
Yeah.
Because their accountant said there's a lot of work to do. But it's all right. The accountant was cheap.
Yeah.
So I just gets my blood boil. We've just been through all that, and this client goes to a cheaper firm. Unbelievable.
It's not just cheaper, it's unregulated. So they're cheaper because they don't have to do all of the additional work that a regulated firm do. But the benefit, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh, well, I could save a bit of money going to an unregulated one. The problem is, if they're not up to date, you'll be losing out on the tax, and you'll also, if there is a problem, if you get an investigation, if there's a problem, you've got nothing to fall back on.
No.
You can't do anything about it. You are putting you and your business at risk by doing that. And
your livelihoods. You wouldn't go to a doctor and not expect them to be a doctor, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
So I think it's an area that's really annoying. Yeah, don't get me wrong, everyone makes mistakes. I'm sure we've made mistakes, but we have processes in place to deal with those.
Yeah.
And we have insurance at the end of the day to cope with that.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that was my rant of the week, having gone through that visit and literally sitting back on the chair and this client saying they're going somewhere cheaper that's unregulated.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Anyway.
Oh, that was a rant.
That was a rant.
Oh, I feel it.
Gets my goat.
It does.
Yeah.
So our question for the week isn't one that somebody sent in, because nobody sent me a question, which was really sad.
Yeah.
So please send me a question for next week, because that'll really just make my day. But this is a question we just had in general, which was, can we return to you as a client?
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. This was after about, 3 or 4 years. So this particular
3 years.
Particular business, family business, lovely business, decided that a regional firm was where they needed to be, because they needed a regional. They're much better than us little tiny firm that is as well qualified as that firm.
Yeah.
And provides a much better. They were very sort of big fish in a small pond with us, and they became a very small fish in a big pond. And apparently they weren't returning their calls.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What a surprise.
That's a surprise. But we see this, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
The grass is always greener on the other side, because my mate down the pub said these people are brilliant. So they left us about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're about to come back.
Yep.
Which, we're pleased about.
We are.
We love the family. And we see their business growing, and we just think that's great. But the grass isn't always greener. Unfortunately, as a business, we have to sometimes go through that pain for people to realise that.
Yeah.
We've accepted them back. We don't accept everyone back, because some of them are a proper pitter client.
Yeah.
Can't swear on here.
No, you can't.
But we have accepted them back, and we look forward to working with them. So that was a great question, but it'll be on our terms.
Yeah, exactly. It will be, and I think it's quite nice for us to know that the differences we think we have as a small family business are accurate. They're coming back because they want the phone calls answered. They want to feel like they're loved. They want the help and support, which is what we say we deliver. And it's nice to know that we do deliver, and that when we say our competitors aren't delivering on that, we're right as well.
I think the butchers do that, don't they?
What?
Do liver.
Oh my goodness. The dad jokes are full on today. They're so full on.
It's even made me laugh.
Oh,
I think
at least it made one of us laugh.
Absolutely. I think that what is also really good there is that, it was embarrassing for them to pick that phone up and say, "Can we come back?"
Yeah.
And I know, because I know this person, I know that that's probably taken them 6 to 12 months to ask that question.
Yeah.
But they did ask it, and it does take, it takes someone who is probably a business owner and understands what's what.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to just...
We just sat back and waited.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's it for this week.
I think it is.
So that's it for this week with Business with the Donos. If you liked this episode, please subscribe, share it with a business owner that you know, and leave us a review. It will really help us to boost our visibility with our podcast. But